Hi, this is Adam Mitchell-Hardt here, joined by business and life coach Greg Clowminzer. Today, we're going to be talking about trying to answer the question: is career alignment a myth? Right. So, Greg and I have different perspective, different philosophies around this. He works with business owners. I work with professionals who are oftentimes looking to change careers. So the intention here is to have a lively debate where we get to the bottom of this idea of what is career alignment, what does it mean, and does it actually matter? So, Greg, do you have anything you want to share on that before we kick it off?
Well, I, I, I'm kind of curious, given the fact that you're a career coach, like, how are you seeing career alignment? And how are the people that come to you, how do they see career alignment? Because I think that's where I always like to go with, the people that I work with, is kind of finding out how are they currently seeing something, and how are they making out of what they're currently seeing, and then I'm happy to share how things and see where those things kind of line up, and if they make sense, and if there's a huge gap. But most importantly, I think anybody listening, to just kind of be with the conversation and see what there is for them in terms of listening from a place of insight, or seeing what makes sense for them or doesn't make sense. Because um, there's a lot of different teachers and a lot of different coaches out there, and people will gravitate towards someone that it really makes sense to, or kind of has a similar philosophy. And that's why there's so many different coaches out there, because people have different needs and different things. So I would say, how do you see career alignment, and is there such a thing?
Yeah, good question. So, career alignment is something that is talked about quite a bit in the realm of career change, myself included. I like to talk about the idea of how important it is to align yourself with a career um, that is in sync with your values, with your interests, your passions, the things that you're really good at, your strengths and talents, etc. Because it's you'll see many examples of this, very successful, contented people that experience this, right? And oftentimes when people are most miserable, what you find is that they're in a line of work that just doesn't really match up so well with who they are as a person. So that's kind of the operating idea, right? Now, I think where it gets a little bit tricky is when you start talking about um, kind of how to create career alignment, um, and what the methodology is for that, right? So, any thoughts on that, Greg? This idea of career alignment, what does that mean to you?
Yeah. Well, I think anybody who has a feeling like something's off on their career, I think that's number one, a great thing. It's kind of a wake up call. Now, I don't know that they know what they're getting into, so to speak, from that wake up call, at least from my point of view. But that wake up call is really an invitation of self discovery. Okay, and if they reach out to someone like yourself, what they're really saying is they're raising their hand, saying, something's off. I'm not happy with where I'm at. Can you help me? And the reason they're reaching out is because, if they're looking for a trusted guide to make sense out of, how did I end up where I am, and how do I make sure I don't do that anymore or again? And so the listener here, I think that if they're listening from a place of wanting career alignment, do they have the stomach? Do they have the willingness? Do they have the courage for some self-discovery? Because I think that career alignment is, if there is such a thing, is really an invitation to getting kind of down and dirty and looking within, and what makes someone tick. And they may find that the solution to their problem isn't what they thought it was. So the way I see it is a career path on its own is innocently signing up for a very advanced personal development course.
Right. So is this problem a problem with the circumstances of a person's life, their career, their job, the industry, etc., or does this have more to do with the person themselves and what's going on inside of them?
Yeah. Good. Well, that's your job. A lot of times is to get the client to engage with those questions right there. Ask them, how much do you think your job dissatisfaction is you, what you're bringing to the party, so to speak, and how much do you think it's actually outside of you, circumstances or situations? Okay. Now, from my point of view, I help clients actually see that the real freedom here is when they can own 100% that it's always on them. But they don't always see it that way right off the bat. So that would be the first thing I would ask them kind of coming in is what's their current level of awareness? Are they blaming and making excuses and justifying their position in life, their lot in life with the career and all that? Is it all blaming and excuses and complaining and justifying based on circumstances or situations, or do they have a certain amount of self-awareness and they're going, what I really need is I really need some help getting out of my own way and help with some blind spots I must have clearly. And but usually I'm guessing, most people aren't picking up the phone or reaching out to either a business coach or a career coach saying, hey, I've realized I'm in the way. Can you help me get out of the way? What they're really saying is man, my business sucks, or my life sucks, or my career sucks, and it's a real problem here. And can you help me solve that problem, so to speak? So
Yeah. Right. And for me and my clients, I'm inclined to meet them where they're at, right? If they come to me and they say, hey, Adam, I'm dying here. Like, boss is a real pain in the ass. I've got this quarterly number that I have to hit, and I'm working my ass off, and sometimes I'm falling short, and all of a sudden it feels like my value as a person is being hit, and the job is killing me, my career is killing me. Adam, help, I need a new job, right? And so when we have that conversation, I'm very understanding of that. I've been in that situation. I'm thinking of my last stint, my last career in tech sales. I was that person, right, who's complaining about the nature of the work and the stress and all these things. So I get that, right? And that's where we start. We start by taking a look at, okay, so what's not working in your current work life? What would you prefer it to look like? What do you think, what kind of qualities would you hope to have in your dream career? And let's get to work on and creating the conditions for that, right? Except, hold on a second, disclaimer, I got to make sure that before we go any further, I make it very clear that that is not the solution.
Yeah.
Right? So this is where, you and I have shared some similar opinions here, because that's not it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's a part of it. That's a big part of it.
Yeah.
But that's not it. And
but that's the innocence, I think, of the world that we live in, is that most people really think that the solution is grass is greener somewhere else, or if I just jump ship. And what they don't really realize is wherever I go, there I am, But I would say even the restlessness or the stirring, like, what got me out of a career in commercial real estate was I was all stressed out and I felt like I was out of alignment. What really kind of cracked open for me is and it really happened through self-discovery. I discovered within myself that my values were very different than where I found myself. Like I really valued psychology and philosophy and what made humans tick. And I didn't really feel like that was getting expressed in the place that I was at. And I was just really fortunate, having, when, coaching was in its infancy back 26 years ago, to kind of be led in this path and find something that I really found I enjoyed and love and all of that. Now I made a hell of a lot more money in commercial real estate than I've done in the coaching, but I've found such a great sense of meaning and reward and really love helping people. So you could say that's kind of the alignment for me, is finding right work. And what I mean by right work is what's right for me. And I think each person has to discover that for themselves.
Yeah, that's great. What I'm starting to hear and observe is that for you, this alignment was more of a natural evolution for yourself, right? I'm hearing that you were coming to know yourself more and more and understand the things that you care about, that you're interested in, that you would gladly work on or work with, regardless of external rewards, right? And that's the big key. Rather than just trying to reconstruct your life on the outside, inevitably the work begins on the inside, right? So phase one for all of my clients is taking inventory of who they are, right? And this is the hardest part. I end up asking the simplest of questions on the intake questionnaire and on the first session, yet they're the hardest questions to answer, because many of us forget. We've at some point along our journey, we've kind of lost touch with who we are, what we're about, what we care about, our interests, values, etc. And so when I ask the question, what are you really good at? What are some of your interests? What are some things that you just really love to do for the sheer joy of doing them? It often leaves them scratching their heads.
Yeah.
Right? That's one.
Yeah. Well, you're pointing them to their heart, which is what a good coach does. You're pointing to them, what makes your heart sing, or what feeds your soul would be another way to say that. Now, most career alignment, out there is trying to align with someone's ego, or the individual is coming, not necessarily the career coaching is to align with the ego, but the individual is trying to align with their ego. Their career alignment is really ego alignment, and that's where the rub is. That's where the bump is, so the ego is, what makes sense to mom, dad, church, state, synagogue, Fortune 500, Cosmo magazine, like what's going to really prop up my ego from a place of admiration and prestige and fame and all that. So that's
what is everybody else going to think?
Yeah,
right? What is the world going to say about me if I have this title?
Exactly. So what I think you do, and where we're in agreement, is that we're pointing people in another direction. We're saying we're giving them permission to set their egos aside and actually think for themselves, or kind of come home to a deeper truth, their heart or their soul. We're pointing them to right work, or wise work, or heartfelt work, or purposeful work, and not egoic work. I think that's the big distinction here. Is I think career alignment, for many people think of career alignment as more ego alignment, and what they're surprised by, and what's really helpful in working with someone like you, is they come home to work that really feeds their soul, so to speak.
Yeah, and I think for both of us in the work that we do with our clients, it's kind of a process of waking people up to this reality that when you're outside focused, when you're ego focused, when you're thinking about what are other people going to think of me, if I'm a high paid lawyer, accountant, executive, whatever, right? and then realizing what happens when you live in that space for a number of years. You lose touch with yourself. Your life lacks meaning. You don't have a sense of purpose.
Yeah.
It's hard to get out of bed in the morning. You dread going to work, and all of a sudden you're anxious and you're depressed and you're wondering, what the hell went wrong? I'm making all this money. I've got a great title. I got a nice car, but something's missing, right?
Yeah. You're reminding me when I ultimately resigned from commercial real estate. It took me 2 years in the making to have the courage to actually resign, and because I didn't have really a career coach at the time, so it was like all on my own. So it took me 2 years. But when I finally got the courage to resign, I typed up my letter of resignation. I was the VP of the company at the time, the president of the company. I was wearing a double-breasted suit, silk tied, Italian shoes, full head of hair back in the day. And I handed my letter of resignation. And as soon as it left my hands, Adam, I spontaneously burst into tears. And what happened, I fell into this abyss of not knowing who I was, because all my identity was tied up into that role, that identity, being a VP, being in commercial real estate, how I imagined people thought of me, all that stuff. And in that moment, when I relinquished that title, I no longer knew who I was in that moment. I was complete lost. It was like, but the reason I fell into an abyss is that who I had built my life around was just a mirage. It was just it kind of propped me up, And so that was kind of the best day and the worst day for me, in that it really showed me that how wrapped up my identity was in a career. And that's what's really hard for, I think, people, and where they need kind of the coaching help is to help them understand that their ego is just all wrapped up into their identity. And that it does take a bit of courage to set that aside and really take stock and really discover who people are. Most people just don't know who they are. They don't know how they tick. They don't understand the human experience real well. And so they're just innocently doing the best they can, surviving. But it's a huge price people pay in terms of identity and ego satisfaction.
Yeah. I think in wrapping up here, I would say that you and I have been fortunate to have, I think we both kind of learned the hard way at times, but one way or another, we kind of figured this out, or at some point had the insights that it's not about what's going on the outside, right? It's about figuring out who we are, what we're about, and making that the focus of our life. So that's really what this work is about, right? For me, and I think for your clients as well, if people are interested in working with either one of us, that's what you can expect to get, right? We'll talk about the trappings of success and how you can have an amazing life and make a ton of money, and all these things are going to be byproducts of the work. So that's a big part of the package. But when you work with us, you're going to have a chance to kind of reinvent yourself and take a look at yourself and get to know yourself very, very well. And from there, everything else just kind of happens naturally. And this alignment that we're talking about becomes an organic evolution where it just makes sense to start doing more of the things that you like once you've identified what those are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you can either begin the journey now or later. But at some point, we're all going to be confronted with that, and much like yourself, Adam, I got on this path at a young age. But unfortunately, a lot of people, they don't even begin to question, this stuff until they're in their 50s, late 50s or whatever, until the alignment, until the wheels start falling off, so to speak. And then they're really confronted either by health concerns or a relationship that went sideways because of the discord and the unhappiness over long periods of time, which have implications. So, anybody listening here, whether you reach out to us or on your own path, I would say is begin your own journey, back to your heart, back to your soul, and find out what makes sense to you to live and work purposefully, in alignment with yourself, in a way that's not just feeding your ego, but feeding your heart and your soul. And Adam is a terrific guide for anybody wanting to make that journey in the, in the domain of a career path. So I'd highly encourage anybody listening to talk with Adam and kind of come home to who they are, and to really enjoy their careers. I mean, because people spend so much time in that domain, it's foolish not to want to enjoy it and have it be meaningful.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. That's what it's all about, right? How do I have greater sense of meaning in my life? Like, what could my life be like if it had a sense of purpose, right? So that's what we're talking about here. Greg and I, we've been working together for a while here, so we're sharing, similar philosophies from different perspectives, and hopefully for everybody watching or listening, this has just been, thought provoking, right? The intention is to get you thinking about these ideas. Whether or not you want to act on them is totally up to you, but this is the stuff that this work is all about. And I'm really glad that we were able to get together and do this. And we'll be doing another one about a week from now. So hope to see you guys there for that as well.
Great. Thanks, Adam. It was really, really fun, and really appreciated being in this conversation with you. And I hope anybody listening found some value in it. And if you are watching or listening, leave a comment below, either to Adam or myself, and let us know what you thought. And if something didn't make sense, ask us a question, and we'll do our best to clarify that.
All right, great.
Thanks, Adam.
Yeah, thanks, Greg.